Dave Portnoy says he wants to hold Bitcoin forever, but he's waiting for the dip. Should somebody tell him? Like refs in the NBA, missing critical calls at important points in the game, people will continue to miss Bitcoin, even if it's right in front of them. Peter Schiff thinks we need to put gold on the blockchain. Has somebody told him that Zimbabwe has already tried this? People will opt for all sorts of digital properties to store their wealth, like gold stablecoins, like stocks, like real estate, like ETFs. But there's really only one digital commodity that you can truly own. Welcome to the Bitcoin Daily Show. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. In Game 2 of the series of the Knicks versus the Sixers, Nick Nurse was trying to call a timeout for like 20 seconds, and the refs, although right in front of him, ignored him, and it led to bad outcome for the Sixers. And just like the refs, Dave Portnoy is still missing it when it comes to Bitcoin, even though it's right in front of him.
Like I said, I'm going to end up doing a lot more Bitcoin, and I feel comfortable using Kraken.
Now, when you say doing a lot more Bitcoin, is this something where you plan to buy, spend, invest? What does it look like?
Just
What does it
buy.
look like for you? Just buy.
Just buy.
Okay.
Like what you said with buy. So I own all of Barstool again. So I would put Bitcoin on the ledger.
Okay.
Maybe if I was going to buy it, it would probably maybe sell it, make some money, extra money, which I think is a good place to do for Bitcoin. I also want to hold some forever. So I guess I have my personal and the business side. But again, I got to wait for a dip. Don't even say it, but I am going to wait for a dip.
He always says something that leaves you scratching your head. Let me give you some advice, Dave. Looking at this chart from Wicked shows you that if you buy Bitcoin and hold it for any point in a 4-year time frame, you will be in the green. And if you stop at year 1, 2, or 3, you most likely will also have more purchasing power than you did when you bought it. So the moral of the story is, don't try to time Bitcoin, spend more time in Bitcoin. And you know who else we like to pick on in this show, just as much as Dave Portnoy, is Peter Schiff, because he deserves it. By saying things like, if people wanted to, they could tokenize gold on a blockchain, and gold would be better on a blockchain than Bitcoin. It's funny, because right before he said this, he was clamoring on about how gold is a much better store of value than Bitcoin. And since he said that, gold's down over 4%, and over 10% when you price it in Bitcoin. But you know who specifically would call out Peter Schiff when he said that you could put gold on a blockchain or have a gold stablecoin? Zimbabwe. Over the last 6 years, they tried a number of things to stabilize their currency. In 2019, they tried to peg the Zimbabwe dollar at 2.5 Zimbabwe dollars to $1 US. And since the beginning of the year, that has lost 80% of its value. So what did they try to do? They tried to build a gold-backed stablecoin called ZIG. And you know what's been zigging ever since ZIG launched on April 5th? The returns of the Zimbabwean stock market, which have fallen 99.95% since the gold token launched on April 5th. One of the most devastating impacts of high inflation or hyperinflation is that it creates a self-fulfilling doom loop. When people have less confidence to spend money, corporations earn less money, and they create less products, they lay people off, which in turn gives people less money, and again, they have less confidence and spend less money. Well, it's easy to see why people are losing confidence, even in economies that aren't hyperinflating. When you look at the United States, 40% of renters say that they don't feel like they will ever be able to purchase a home. This is up from 27% just a year ago. When you dig into the numbers, you see that the average mortgage payment in the US is over $2,770 per month. In March, the median home price that sold was $430,000, and the average sale price was $524,000. Consumers are having less and less confidence in the real estate market and buying homes. You know what they're also showing signs of having less confidence in? The stock market. The NASDAQ 100 may be a good proxy for this, as it's had 5 straight weeks of declines. And one way to try to improve on the shortcomings of the stock market, instead of just adopting Bitcoin, the New York Stock Exchange wants to extend its trading hours to 24/7, not realizing that this could potentially cause all sorts of issues for the entire system, the number one export of the United States, the financial services market, which has built an entire framework and system around it trading Monday through Friday. So rather than building upon a network that has been designed to trade globally 24/7, 365, they opt for another proxy. You know who else is opting for a proxy? Venezuela, trying to use Tether as a way to avoid U.S. oil sanctions. Do they realize that the U.S. government can still sanction and freeze assets if they're using Tether? Maybe they should look to India as an example, where some Indian fishermen had their bank accounts frozen for protesting a large conglomerate which is doing a construction project in a seaport where they fish every single day. You can try to get a Bitcoin proxy through stocks, through banks, through gold stable coins or other stable coins like Tether, or through ETFs, whether it's IBIT through BlackRock, whether it's FBTC through Fidelity, whether it's BITB through Bitwise, or ARCB through ARC. You're not buying the real thing of Bitcoin, which is the only true decentralized store of value in digital commodity that you can actually own as property without a third party in the middle. There's nothing else that has that sort of property and that sort of value, which is why we always say that Bitcoin continues to have utility. There's a whole generation of people who still believe that stocks will be the greatest store of value over time and in the future. Well, when you look at this chart and you denominate the price of the S&P 500 with the Fed balance sheet, you realize that the value of the stock market has gone absolutely nowhere since 2008. You realize that all of the gains in the price of the stock market aren't due to the stocks and the companies becoming that much more valuable. They're due to the dollar being worth that much less. There's some funny videos going around about, young women in America talking about inflation and currency and all the things that are going wrong. And although they can't articulate why these things are happening in the right way or ways that even remotely make sense, they're pretty entertaining. They do highlight a critical point that everybody is starting to sense that something is wrong. Something is fundamentally broken.
Hey, so you know what I don't fucking understand? This is why I don't understand. See this? See this? See that? This. This is worth $50? This is worth $5? This is the exact same piece of fucking plastic. This is the same thing. We made up these arbitrary numbers. And then we said, we can't print more or else it'll be worthless. How about just don't let it be worthless? How about just don't tell anybody or just don't let it happen? We literally made this up. This is a construct we made up. Just don't let it inflate. Just don't. People, I get inflate, but I don't. Just don't let it. You let this happen. You let this happen. How about you just let everything else happen too? Why don't you just let stuff not inflate? Just deflate it.
The perception that everything is okay and the lies that have been extended by centralized authorities are now overextended and are misaligned with the reality that everyday people are having. We're now entering into the period of Bitcoin that will have true price discovery. Price that isn't manipulated by some other thing, and a price that they are starting to value against everything that is not true. If you're starting to sense that something is wrong in the system and that the things that you've been storing value in are not as valuable as you once thought, on-ramp onto freedom money through swan.com. The next $10,000 in purchases that you have will have no fees. And if you have questions about how do I actually hold this digital commodity and take self-custody of it, please send me an email at daily@swanbitcoin.com. I'm happy to help you on your journey. And with that, this is Dante Cook with swan.com. Happy stacking.